Hi everyone and welcome to today's Speakers for Schools Industry Spotlight Talk. We are so glad you're here with us today and I'm Sarah, your host. We're going to be hearing from some of our industry insiders today. So industry insiders are people who are currently working in industry, living our experiences that come with building a career. We have up to an hour for this session and it will include a presentation from our speakers before moving into a time of Q&A. Questions for our speakers can be submitted under the stream, so if you scroll down a little bit on your screen, you can find a box there and you can write your questions in and get them over to us and the speakers. It's open from now, so start getting your questions in. We've had loads already, keep them coming. It is amazing to see them come through. You can also get interactive with us with our poll that we have on Slido, same place. If you scroll down, you can find it there. We'd love to see your answers there as well. If you have any issues at all with the stream, please let us know via the same box. We'll do our best to support you and help you during the talk. So today we're excited to welcome Tiana, Poppy and Lucy from London Screen Academy. So welcome them up now. Hi! How's it going?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good.
Good to see you. Okay, so I know you've got an amazing presentation planned for us today. So I'm going to hand over to Tiana for a little intro before we start.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiana. So I'm just going to give you a little rundown of London Screen Academy, what we do, who we are, and then Lucy and Poppy can get into the industry and all that great jazz because they've worked in it. I haven't. Okay. Okay, so if you've seen Harry Potter, Barbie, Top Boy, James Bond, Paddington, Polite Society, and many other films, they are some of the UK's biggest producers, and they are also the founders of London Screen Academy. Our mission is to diversify the screen industries, and our vision is to create stories that change the world. And we feel that we can only do that until it has been diversified. We have our core curriculum, which is development, industry progression, and storytelling. We feel like this is the backbone of everything that we need for the industry. So that every single student will learn this curriculum, but they'll also pick a pathway as well. So our 4 pathways are craft, technical, post-production, and production. You also pick an ADQUAL, which is an additional qualification. So that's A-level English or A-level Maths or Core Maths or an EPQ. Core Maths is life maths, taxes, and if you become a freelancer, that is very important. The course does equal to 3 A-levels, but you can leave with either 3, 3.5, or 4, depending on your additional qualification. The 4 pathways I said. So we have craft, which is costume, hair and makeup, and art direction. We have technical, where you learn camera, lighting, and sound. Post-production is animation, editing, visual effects, and production, which is our newest pathway, is where you learn about producing TV and film and production management. We have level 4, where you'll learn you would pick either from film production or creative enterprise, and the level 4 qualification, you will leave with a professional diploma in creative enterprise or a professional diploma in technical and production practice for the creative. That is only a 1-year course after, so if you choose to stay on, you can, but you can go straight into the industries or higher education if that is what you prefer. So this is the screen industries basically. So you'll start with development, which is creating and developing an idea or concept. You'll go into pre-production, which is budgeting, scheduling, logistical planning, and then you go into production, which is filming, animating, creating. Post-production, which is editing, sound mixing, adding music and VFX, and then lastly you'll go into sales and distribution, so getting the product out here. And LSA does teach all of this in some aspect. We have an incredible industry team, which they'll put on masterclasses, they run mentoring, work experience, trips and experiences. We have an amazing alumni program. So if you are with us 2 or 3 years, we don't just leave you in the dark. We do help you after. You get jobs that are ring fenced only for LSA students. And we also help with UCAS support. So if you do want to go into higher or further education, they will help with personal statements and all of that jazz. There are over 250 different roles in the screen industries, and the subjects you might be studying or subjects you might be teaching do have a lots of links to them. So if you're learning English, IT, music, maths, drama, art, and obviously film or media studies, you can become a screenwriter, a script supervisor, an editor, a soundtrack, work in soundtracks and scores, set design, animation, camera operating, cinematography, budgeting, accounting, finance, law, and many, many more jobs. And these are just some of the many, many jobs in the film and TV industry. And a great place to get the description of these jobs and what they are is screen skills. So if anyone has heard about that or haven't, definitely check out some of the jobs on there, because I know there's many jobs in there you've probably never heard of. I never knew what a best boy was before this job. So definitely take a look at screen skills and where you can learn about all the jobs and roles in the industry. So just a couple of stats about our alumni in work. So 39% of our alumni are in employment, and 66% of those in employment are working in the creative industries. We also have, these are some of the places that they go into. So, and there's just some people on the side that I wanted to give a special shout out so you can see what they've gone into. So we have Tyler, who left LSA in May last year and was successful in getting an LSA traineeship at Netherlands Creative Agency, where he now works as a production assistant. We have Grace, who was part of the first level 4 cohort at LSA after graduation. She got a traineeship at Left Bank Pictures and is now freelancing as a runner and camera trainee. Thomas took part in the employability and professionalism program at LSA to support our neurodiverse students into employment. He's currently working as a sound trainee on a working title Netflix series. And lastly, we have Rebecca, who left LSA to study at the Christina Blundell Makeup Academy. And after graduating from that in January 2024, she was offered a crowd makeup traineeship on a high-end TV series. So we have many alumni working in industry, and these are just a few that I wanted to highlight. Our alumni also in higher education. We had 32% that go into higher education and 12% that go into further education. And these are for all sorts of types of courses, whether they are industry based or not. So we don't want people to think when they come here that they will just have to go into the industries. There's many transferable skills and professional behaviours that we learn that can work in any sort of industry. So I just wanted to give again. And you can screenshot this if you want to see it later, because there's a couple of names there, but we have people who don't go into the industry and decide to study something else. So we have Caleb, who studied law with French at the University of Kent, but we also have Louis, who studies film production at Manchester Metropolitan University. So whatever you want to do, you can go into do. So you want to learn more about the industry, or you want to go straight into the industry, or you decide to do something else, it's totally fine. Our admissions and how does it work? Basically, we start with an online application. We require 5 GCSE grades, level 4 to 9, including English or maths. You'll take part in an interview, 20 minutes roughly, phone or video conversation. Successful applications will be offered a place, and then you can engage with LSA. So you will have offer events, and you can come down to meet students and other people who have also been offered places and teachers as well, and learn more about LSA and your pathway that you chose. And we also have enrollment day. So when you find out your GCSE results and you enroll on a day, and that's how the admissions works. And our entry requirements, I said again, we require 5 GCSEs grades 4 to 9, including English and or maths. You can retake English or maths, but you can't retake both. And it will be in place of your additional qualification. So, and there's also some students have BTECs with their GCSE results, and not all BTECs are the same. So you'd have to check carefully what the BTEC equivalent is to see if the students achieve the minimum entry requirements. We only accept level 2 results as a merit or above. So that is our entry requirements if you do want to come. And that is for level 3. So, you know, I'm going to pass you over to Lucy, who can talk about production management and, no, sorry, Poppy. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'll come later. Later. So eager. Pass you over to Poppy to talk about production management.
Cool, lovely, thank you.
It's fine.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Poppy. I'm head of the production management pathway or department at LSA. Before I get started, obviously, I'm going to talk you through lots of different entry-level roles in the industry. But yeah, before I do that, I think it's probably useful for me to just explain exactly what it is that the production management department does at LSA and also what we do in industry. So I would say that the production management department really is at the core of every single production, whether it is a film or a TV show, because we liaise with every single department. So as it says there, we oversee the logistical and operational aspects of producing. So obviously that is in film and in TV. That includes lots of different things, but just some of the things, the kind of key skills, again, you can see there. So we've got researching and pitching. We also manage the budget. We create and oversee the schedule. We also manage casting. So if that is in a scripted production, obviously that's working with actors. If it's unscripted, it's finding really cool contributors to take part. We also oversee sustainable and ethical production. So just one example of that is obviously considering the carbon emissions that are produced as part of production and seeing how we can actually lower those. And also we find locations. Then once we're on set, obviously everything comes together at that point. Again, we manage that entire shoot. So really it's a case of making sure that everything comes in exactly on time and make sure that we stick to schedule. As I said, I will mention and I will go through a couple of kind of niche roles and also some kind of more common roles as well. But before I do, I think it's probably just worthwhile mentioning that at LSA, we have really amazing access to industry. So as Tiana was saying, we have an industry team here. And as part of that, we have lots of conversations with industry professionals all the time. And what they say to us is that, of course, like the knowledge and the skills are incredibly important, but really at entry level, it's the professional behaviours, you might kind of know these as soft skills, that is firstly going to help you to get a job. So, you know, you might go to interview and it's going to help you to secure that role. But obviously, we also really want our students to have really long and successful careers. And really, it's having these really well-developed professional behaviours that is going to ensure that. So we have a professional behaviours framework here. So we have communication, creative problem solving, self-management and collaboration. And the idea is that in every film and TV project, we spotlight onto one of those professional behaviours. So by the time that you actually leave LSA, you know, you're fully prepared, you've got all your professional behaviours fully developed, and then you're ready to secure that entry-level role. As I said, I will speak about some niche roles, but first of all, I'm going to start with the most common role, which is a runner role. For context, I used to work in TV, so I started out as a production runner. That was obviously a long time ago now, and then I worked my way up eventually to become a production manager. Obviously, along my kind of way in my TV career, I met a lot of different people, but every single person that I ever met did start out as some form of runner. So obviously, I've highlighted the production runner there because I'm talking about production management, but just to flag up that there are runners in every single department. So if you're interested in the art department, for example, there are art department runners. Really, that role is all about assisting. So it's about assisting with admin. You might run certain errands, hence obviously the runner role. You might assist on set, you might assist with the cast. And as I mentioned, you might work with a range of different departments. So it's really cool in terms of, sussing out exactly what you want to do in the industry. I think the runner role is kind of your time to work that out. And then obviously you can kind of take your next steps from there. So moving on to perhaps lesser known entry-level roles. Again, obviously these all fall under production. Firstly, I'm starting with the locations trainee role. For context, at LSA, you learn all about this role within our first production management project, which is called Find in the Frame. The key skills that you would learn is firstly working with scripts. So obviously your script is the blueprint of everything. You would break down that script and you would find out the exact locations that you need to find. Once you've done that, you need to schedule lots of different visits to go and see different places and different locations. And a location visit in industry is called a recce. So you would need to create a recce schedule. Obviously, once you've created your schedule, you're going to attend those visits. So you would attend location recces. When you're on that visit or that recce, you would take lots of photos. And obviously, you would make notes for all the different departments to make sure that it's fit for purpose. Obviously, when you return from that recce, you need to format them professionally. You then need to think about any sort of permits and permissions that you actually need for that location. You might need to consult with the local community. So if you're filming in an area and it's going to cause a real disruption, you might need to speak to the local community about that. And also a real big part of this role is pitching to lots of heads of departments. So whenever you choose a location, you have to keep lots of people quite happy and make sure that, they can fulfill their role. So that's also a really big part of the role. I've just got some photos here. On the left-hand side, there's some student exemplar work. So first of all, I've got a recce schedule. So that's the kind of pre-filming visits that I was talking about. And there's also an example resident letter. So in any production management role, you're going to have an admin aspect to your role. But equally, on the right-hand side, you can see some examples of our students actually on a recce. So that was at the Mildmay Club. That particular location has been featured in loads of films and TV shows. Baby Reindeer, for example, which is on Netflix. And then also just some examples there of the types of things that you might be doing actually on location. So you might be thinking, would I actually enjoy that particular role? I've basically put together some reflective questions to help you work that out. So first of all, do you think you're particularly organised? Do you like communicating with the general public? I would say that's a really large part of this role. Do you enjoy a mix of admin and physical work? I've said physical in particular because there is quite a lot of heavy lifting, as it were, to do on set sometimes. You have to put up marquees and all that kind of stuff on set. Do you enjoy photography? Again, it's a large part of the role. And do you enjoy bringing an idea to life? So if your answer is yes to all of those things, perhaps a location assistant role would be for you. Moving on to my second role then, this is the questions researcher role. This is very different. This is for unscripted TV and in particular, obviously, quiz shows. Again, you can learn all about this role in the production management pathway in our year 2 project called Moving On Up. So as a question researcher, obviously you need to write the questions, but you also need to verify them. So for context, you can't put any question on TV without it being verified by 3 different sources. You also need to consider the difficulty and the order in which you place the questions. You need to consider audience interactivity. So obviously when you're watching a quiz show, typically people enjoy playing along at home. And you also need to be able to clear copyrights. So for example, if you've got a music or a picture round, again, you can't just put those things on TV and need to make sure that you've cleared those properly. Again, just some examples of the admin tasks and the more practical tasks. So on the left-hand side, we've got a question verification document. So this is from one of the quiz shows that we've made at LSA. And then on the right-hand side, you can see our students in our studio gallery. So obviously this is when we were actually recording the show as a live broadcast. I've circled our question writer there, our question researcher, and it was her job to basically say whether the questions were correct or incorrect. Again, just some reflective questions. So would you actually enjoy that role? So obviously, do you enjoy researching? Obviously, it's got the word researcher in the title. Do you like broadening your general knowledge? Do you have great attention to detail? Would you enjoy working on live TV? And do you perform well under pressure? So just to clarify those last 2 points, I absolutely loved working in live TV. I think because it's almost like theatre, it's very theatrical. You only get one chance to have a go at it. There's no second takes or anything like that. And I actually really enjoyed that aspect of it, but perhaps other people would not. So that's just something to consider with that particular role. How do you actually secure those roles? So as I mentioned at the very start, the most common way of getting into any role will be a runner. So whether that's in unscripted or in scripted. However, that isn't the only way of doing it. There are lots of other things available to you. So there are traineeships, there are apprenticeships. Obviously, you can go to university and then you can try and get into industry after that. I think it's worth flagging up that there are lots of Facebook groups. I appreciate that Facebook might be a bit of an old kind of type of social media these days. But actually, that is where a lot of the jobs are posted for runners. There's a website called Talent Manager where you can also find jobs. I would also say you can just reach out to companies that you're really interested in. I definitely did that in industry. If there was somewhere that I really wanted to work, I'd reach out to them and see, is there any work experience available? Which kind of takes me on to the last point, which is, seek work experience. You can definitely contact companies and see if they're willing to take you on. Just a heads up, though, that you might have to be 18 or over, just purely for insurance purposes. So I think that's all of my jobs complete. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a heads up as to what production management is all about and taught you a couple of new roles. So I'm going to hand over to Lucy to speak about development.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Lucy and I am Head of Development and Industry Progression at LSA. I think to contextualize, because I know there's like an industry focus on this particular webinar, I worked in the UK film and TV industry for about 3 years before I moved into teaching as an assistant director, so floor runner, third assistant director, worked with producers, supporting them. I now make independent films, short films, and funded documentaries, so still working in the industry as part of my teaching career. So hopefully that means I can share a little bit about the industry and how you can get into it and what jobs are available. We touched upon this earlier, but development is a phase in the screen industries. And I say screen industries really broadly because that does include, for example, digital media content creation as well as film and television. And we do cover that here at LSA. So if you're thinking like I'm not interested in film and TV, we do talk about advertising, commercials, music videos, etc. But development as a phase is always where you come up with the idea, you respond to a brief you're given, you kind of like stress test it. It's everything before it moves into making it. So it might include research, it could involve receiving critique or feedback from people, redrafting, securing any rights. And I have mentioned pre-production, which is the starting to plan, because we do touch upon that in my subject too. We also try to introduce a little bit of film theory and analysis, which if any of you are lucky enough to be doing media studies and film studies, that will kind of be familiar to you, which is great, but we'll introduce a little bit of that here. And sometimes a little bit of original thinking is important as part of our subject, like trying to get you to not just go with your first idea, but also think about other options, look at different stimuluses, etc. So that's what development is here. We have a whole range of development roles on the screen. I think it's really important for me to say that we've arranged with speakers for schools that these slides can be sent out to you. So I'm not going to read everything on the slides. They're a resource for you to use. I'm just going to touch on some things and hopefully share some stuff. But I've added a few in that kind of straddle a few areas. So the purple stars at the bottom, assistant director was my past, and I'd really like to share a role that I think people should know about. Production runner is included in some of my discussion, and producers or director's assistant doesn't seem to appear very much on screen skills, and that's what I'm going to talk about first. So, an unknown role in the industry. We talk a lot about runners, and I'm really glad that Poppy touched on, like, a runner is an entry-level role in every department. But the director's assistant or producer's assistant is kind of like a little bit gatekept, a little bit in the corner, and it kind of like isn't one that you think maybe you could kind of like instantly go for. So the role is working directly for a producer or director, usually kind of like hired through them and as part of the production. You will be doing some of those typical assistant jobs, so like arranging their food and drinks, their schedule and their meetings, booking them travel and stuff like that. You might even be setting up their own like personal technology, laptops, computers, like different like video calls and stuff. But as part of that, in terms of like the development aspect, you might be like, for example, attending table reads or helping organize castings, reading scripts yourself and responding to your director or producer with some notes on that script. So I think if you were interested in that first phase of filmmaking, this would be a really great kind of role, and it can be an entry-level role. So I've put at the bottom, how can you get into it? Well, you could be a runner in a different department and then use that as a stepping stone into being a director or producer's assistant. You could also apply for a freelance or daily position just straight off the bat. When you've got other relevant experience, which I'll talk about later, like some of these roles are actually quite accessible, even if you're not already in the industry. And also networking, there's great things that go on, for example, in London and even in surrounding areas. I know there's some in Essex, for example, where there's these like groups of filmmakers that meet, and some of them will be directors or producers that you could network with and then ask to be their assistant, or can you be taken on to their next job. I think it's a really great role if you're looking at wanting to be in that early phase. I'm going to touch on like some of the professional behaviours. This is similar to Poppy's reflection, but like you've got to be good on the phone for this. You've got to be kind of set ready, because you might be working in the production office, or you might be going down to set with your producer or director. You might want to be a little bit more, for example, proactive and have like quite high standards, because these people are quite high caliber and therefore they're going to expect a lot from you once you get the ball rolling. In terms of the knowledge, it's not so much knowing how to analyze a scene or how to kind of like put together a camera. It's much more like knowing the industry and reading industry kind of like print or digital publications. It's also knowing that director or producer's previous work and what they're kind of interested in, or their career trajectory. And the skills you're going to need here are things like, can you set up a Zoom call? Can you use Apple and Google? Can you understand different file types for when you're kind of transporting stuff? So slightly different, I would say, to a floor runner or set runner, more similar to a production runner. So that is one role that I highly recommend you consider. And then in terms of runners, we often talk about production runners and like being a set or a floor runner. I don't think we talk about enough base runners, which is like a very, very common role in scripted TV and film. Base refers to the unit base. And in the background of this slide, you can see it a little bit, which is where all of the cast trailers are. And some of the trailers are actually offices for when you're working on location. And that is your unit base, okay? Whatever's filming, the base that they're working out from and where they're getting the cast ready. So this job is working as part of the assistant director's team. It can be from pre-production into production. So in terms of like pre-production, you might support early doors with like fitting. So the actors need to come down and they need to, for example, get fitted for their costume so that they're ready for their first day of shoot. You might be printing key documentation, for example, all of the photos of the cast with their names and their numbers that go up in all of the offices that need to be ready before the first day. So you're kind of involved in that early planning stage, and then you will follow that through into production, where you will be at base. And that means you're checking the trailers before the cast arrive. You're liaising with their drivers and making sure you're there to greet them. You might ask them what they want for breakfast, what they want for lunch, and arrange that for them. You're going to need to be reading the call sheet and making sure that they're out of their trailer and over to the makeup truck in order to get ready so that they can then get to costume by 8 a.m. in order that they get checked over and get in the golf buggy that you take them to set on. So the whole thing is about getting the cast ready at base and delivering them to set, and then going back to base to do the next cast or the next people, etc. So I think it's a really interesting role that you should consider if you're interested in working closely with cast, because actually you get a lot of time with them, and it's a very like, can you be strategic, problem solve, time keep very well type of job. How would you get into this role? Well, you could be a runner in a different department and then move into base. You could do the same as before, freelance or daily position as a base runner, sometimes on like a smaller budget job where there's like kind of less stakes. You could network. One of the things I wanted to tell you desperately was that there are new runner agencies. So for example, Just Runners and Call Time Company, I was with Call Time Company. They got me my first job on Downton Abbey. They were brilliant. They knew that I was a brand new runner and they appropriately placed me and helped me grow. So don't think you just have to do it yourself. There are some set up companies that can actually help you break through. Just Runners is new, but it looks like their aim is to diversify the industry. So I think a diary agency or that kind of service is really good. You could do some work experience or shadowing or some traineeships that kind of get you to the point where you can become a base runner, or you could walk onto a set. Now, don't panic, teachers. I'm going to caveat this safely, maybe with a supervisor, authorized, and don't do anything terrible. But I did find a local set near me that was shooting Grimsby and walk on and start a conversation with one of the team and ask if they had any runner jobs. So I think sometimes you have to be a little bit bold in this industry to like laterally get in. And I thought I'd share a tiny bit of insider info with you, which is on the slide that you can see the yellow signs. They are telling you that something's filming near you. So if you ever see those yellow signs on the road, ARC will be the name of the production that's shooting. LOC is telling you that that's the location that they're shooting. Base is telling you, which you've now learned, unit base is around the corner. And TEX is where all of the tech trucks will be parking. So if you are really struggling to break through that door and you're in and around London or out in kind of like Suffolk or somewhere, and you kind of like see those signs, maybe just go and be nosy with a sort of supportive, safe, authorized adult and see whether you can have a conversation and get your foot through the door. Again, similar kind of professional behaviours. You need to be good at radio etiquette here, maybe not so much on the phone, but using walkie-talkies. You need to know a lot about kind of like reading scripts and call sheet literacy. So you could look up call sheets online, kind of learn about them, or if you come here, we will teach you all about that. And kind of your skills here are like timekeeping, how to use WhatsApp, attention to detail, multitasking, prioritizing, etc. The last one that I was going to talk about is my wildcard entry, which is one of my favorite things to talk about in the film and TV industry. It's nothing to do with my department, but I just wanted you to know that it exists because it's right for someone. So they have a greens team. The greens team are the set gardeners. So if a project, for example, needs landscaping, it needs a, period drama, perfectly manicured garden. If it needs moss and hanging vines and it needs to be dressed like a sort of jungle, the greens team will come in, okay? They're kind of like an extension to the art department or locations department. They do landscaping, they dress locations, they prep loads of plants, they grow plants for certain jobs. They even help with sometimes artificial plants and props. I think it's a really niche job that for some person who wants to work in this industry, it's the perfect thing for them to do. And I really think it's one of the lesser known jobs that people don't talk about enough. So for that, the skills are wildly different, but also still quite similar. You're going to have to take direction. You need to be ready to go to set because that's going to be where you're putting all of your greenery, your vegetation, etc., your plants. You're mostly going to be working as part of a team, maybe leading at some point, but entry level, you need to be able to kind of like work with the hierarchy. And like the fun of this is like you get to learn plant types, plant care, know about climates and seasons. Like if we're shooting this film and it's meant to be set in summer in South Africa, what plants would be there and what stage of their journey would they be at? So it is a bit of a physical labour, similar to locations assistant kind of job, but you also get to dig, pot, plant, prune. I think in another life, I would have been a greens person. They referred to as greensman, but I suppose greens person. So there's some unknown roles that we think, or lesser known roles that we think we'd like you to know about. Outside of that, I also teach industry progression, which is 1 hour a week here where we teach students how to gain, sustain, maintain, whatever, find jobs in the screen industries. And the brief time I have, I wanted to give you some of our top tips. So first of all, I'm going to echo what Poppy said at the start. Professional behaviours, as we call them, are more useful for entry-level roles than any theoretical, technical and practical knowledge. So where in your classrooms, in your schools, in your journey, you are learning how to be a good communicator, how to solve problems, how to be a good team player, that is super, super important, almost as important as your film, media, English, whatever lessons. So please lean into those and get part-time jobs and volunteer and kind of get those kind of soft skills, because they're the ones that will get you jobs. I would research being a freelancer and all that that entails, because a lot of the jobs in the screen industries are freelance jobs, and it's very different to what some of your kind of parents or guardians might do where they're salaried. It is where you need to manage your own tax and think about when your next job's coming and try and prioritize what you're choosing to do with your year. So really get to know that. Think about your professional online identity. I hate to break it to you, but your employers will look at your social media accounts if they're thinking about hiring you. Some of them will, whether that's good or bad. So what you put online, make sure it's what you want your future boss to see. Be bold, persistent and unusual in your approach. It's still a competitive industry. So we're well served in the UK, it is booming, but people want those jobs. So you need to think a little bit more wildly about how you get through the door, take some of our advice maybe, and consider your personality type. Hopefully me and Poppy have talked about how personality suits certain jobs, and sometimes the dream job you have is not right for you. So really lean into who am I and what job will make the best of my skill set and my passions. Last thing, for the teachers and educators in the room, not so much the students, you'll probably find it incredibly boring. We have this network where we share resources, we talk to each other, we run events and stuff that is out of LSA, but not an LSA thing. And if you want to join, the QR code is on the slides, or you can grab it now. If you need anything from us, if something me or Poppy said, you could probably get to us through the Educators Network. I'm in the WhatsApp group. So please reach out if we can share any resources, or if you can share anything with us, we'd really love it as well. So I think that's it. And I think we're now back to Sarah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. That was so good. I was literally taking it all in and writing notes and just getting into it. And I do agree with you. The greens people sound amazing. That sounds like a really, really cool role. So thank you so much for that presentation, and we will make sure that we send that out as well to our audience. Loads of questions coming in, but they've also definitely been covered in that presentation, which is amazing. I love that kind of connection when that happens. But we can start with this one from Edmund Rice College. So I know we've spoken about this already, about young people kind of breaking into the industry and kind of just going for it. So this person is asking, can they get experience and break into the industry even if they don't have any A-levels regarding screen or film?
Yeah, go on.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most welcoming industries for people who maybe haven't had the academic experience that we typically know to be the route from the past life. I think it is. I really stand by what we said about professional behaviours. If that person has gone and worked in a cafe and they've done some volunteering with maybe a local youth group and they have a distinct interest in a particular area of film and they go to that person with that, they won't care. I think even once on set, someone says to me, "Oh, it's interesting that you've got a university degree," because actually most people try and just get straight in. So please don't feel like you're limited, even if you leave straight from school and try to get in the industry. It might be a little bit harder because you're a bit younger, but I don't think it is necessarily entirely important about grades and stuff like that.
Just to add to that, again, I completely agree. It's just more than anything, the companies, they need you to be 18. So, do whatever job that you kind of need to do in between, and then once you're kind of at 18, you can start applying for these roles. Again, from experience, I've worked with loads of people, again, when I was a runner, they didn't necessarily have A levels, they didn't have university degrees or anything like that. And I also work with, there's another company that I kind of will promote called Mama Youth Project, and they're very much about taking on people and providing additional training for people that haven't necessarily had like a typical education. So just to flag up that there are companies as well out there that will also support you if you haven't had necessarily a typical education.
Amazing, thank you so much. And this one is from Parkside Studio College, and they're asking, what pieces of equipment do you think are crucial for a successful media department?
Okay, so I used to teach media and film studies in a secondary, like a typical secondary school, and I really lent into having a smartphone filmmaking kit. And my development department, even though we have a lot of kit and resources here, we're about to reinvest in another smartphone filmmaking kit for our students. We're moving in that direction now. So I actually think that we should be less elitist and give access to our students who probably all have a smartphone and let them use it in the classroom. So I'd support that, and that would involve a tripod. You can get a it's called a, oh my god, what's it called? Not a like a thing that holds it. It's basically
steady.
It's like a plastic like grip that you put the phone in that creates a like very low cost steady cam thing. So you hold it like this, or you can turn it portrait and landscape. And you can get like little Rode mics that plug straight into phones now, or DJI mics that clip onto people. And you can get little, like, none of these brands obviously I support, but like little DJI Osmos, like things that become, so it's like that for me is much more accessible and important for a media department. And in terms of outside of that, I mean, teaching students to write scripts is really good. So like not equipment, but software, trying to get them, you know, using proper screenwriting software, I think is really important.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And kind of like staying on the topic of times changing and things being different now, we have a question from Highgate Wood, and they are asking, what are your thoughts on the threat of AI and how this could affect the arts or like the film industry? Everyone's like,
as a school, our qualification is starting to understand that we can't shy away from AI. So the UL qualification is saying like, yes, like if it's, we want them to use AI in our kind of like capacity to as a launch pad. So students should use it as a launch pad, but it shouldn't generate their work. That's where we're kind of drawing the line. In terms of like industry-wide impact, the response is varied. So when we speak to our industry partners in production companies, they're like, we're leaning into it. We get a lot of stuff through the doors that's AI generated in terms of like pitch materials or like kind of like concept art and stuff like that. And that's really useful. But obviously maybe not using AI again to generate the film, the TV project, etc. But at least to get it off the ground, get it greenlit, it's really, really important. And they're like okay with that and encouraging us to tell the students to do that. Outside of that, I think it's very political in terms of like, you know.
Yeah. I would probably just say that whenever you're using AI, you just don't want it to take away from anyone's authentic voice. So, you know, use it to enhance an idea, but don't use it to purely create, because that's going to massively limit everything that we create, I would say. But that's my opinion.
No, that's very valid, and that's really, thank you for that. Thank you. Another question from Kingsbury High. They are asking, what do you think makes it or breaks it when it comes to script writing for beginners?
You look at me.
No,
it feels like it's quite development-y.
Yeah,
so
it is.
with script writing, so the feedback we're getting is like, number one, you have to know how to format. I mean, they will look past certain stuff when it goes onto like someone's desk, but if you are just unable to have Googled and taught yourself how to write a script in terms of the correct formatting, then that's like a big no-no. That's a bad starting point. However, they are telling us, the industry, that they get scripts at all different like levels. So it'd be a first-time script or someone who's been writing for 20 years. And sometimes the feedback is exactly the same. Sometimes it can be quite different. But in terms of making or breaking a script, it has to be your main character has to be the driver of the story. So like the character drives the action, and then how the character reacts to conflict is the story and the character, and then that also should lead to the resolution. So start with character, make sure you know who they are, what they want, and what they actually really need, and then put them through some trials. Like the more trials the better, and then kind of get them to a natural conclusion where they've changed. So a character has to have changed by the end of the story in some small way. Some other like tidbits that I've picked up over the years are, if you've got a problem with your ending, it's not a problem with your ending, it's a problem with your beginning. And that works every time. Yeah, if you can't end it, or if you're struggling with your ending, it's because there's a problem in Act 1. And every great story is conflict. So give your main character the worst tools to deal with the conflict. So a really great script editor was like, if you're going to have someone who needs to traverse a mountain to get to their goal, give them a best friend who's scared of heights. Okay, because yes, it's funny, but also it means they've got more to overcome, and how they handle that shows their relationship with that person, or shows their resilience or their perseverance or their, so it's like, give your main character the worst tools and the story will be a little bit more fruitful.
And just to add on to the back of that, obviously, I mean, I would never say that I'm a screenwriter, scriptwriter, anything like that. I'm very much production. But what we have to do is we have to take the script, and I will be thinking, you know, from a production point of view, so perhaps casting. So your character needs to be super clear so that my department can take the script that Lucy's department has made, and then we're going to break down the characters, and we will write out those casting specifications, and they will then get sent out to agents. So, you know, the clearer that you make those characters, the easier it is for all of the departments, just from a production point of view.
I'm going to add one more thing as well, because you made me think of it, because you organised it. Is like, we put our scripts here. So we have a big collab project at LSA where the whole school gets together and makes something. And the script is written by students, but it goes through a rigorous ideation, like redrafting process. We put it in front of our EDI groups, and that replicates industry in terms of like ethical and environmental considerations. So like our eco change makers came in and reviewed it and made sure that we were thinking about the environmental impact of the narrative and what we were putting on screen. Our kind of like EIC group were talking about representation in terms of characters and culture. Our Pride group were there talking about how the themes of the project was positive, even though it wasn't LGBTQ, it was rebellion, and how, so that is industry. The BFI diversity standards are that. So you need to be thinking about whether your script is going to make it through some kind of like rigorous checkpoints, veto points.
That's awesome. That's really, really helpful. Thank you so much. We've had a question come in, and we've touched on this before, but they are asking, how difficult is it to get into the industry without any contacts at all? So if you don't know anyone, what would you do?
I didn't know anyone at all. I just had a real passion for work. Yeah. I think, you know, it totally is possible. I think, you know, you need to be really proactive. You need to be really passionate, and you just need to keep trying is what I would say. You know, yeah, I didn't have a clue. I didn't even really know what the roles were in TV. I just knew that I wanted to work in it. So, you know, just keep trying, and you definitely can do it. As we've said lots of times, it's not about like knowing people. It's not even about knowledge skill. It's turning up to an interview, being really passionate, talking about the kinds of shows that company makes, why you want to work there, you know, what you can bring to the team that isn't necessarily all the ideas, but like what you like as a team player, that kind of thing. So, you know, and that shows in an interview. I really do think like passion shows. As my role as a production manager, I used to hire the runners. So, you know, again, lots of those runners didn't know anyone. I would just hire them based on their passion and their enthusiasm and those kinds of things rather than anything else.
I would like to add, it's probably easier for you to make contacts if you come to LSA because they have a bunch of contacts there that you can maybe never see before. Maybe I'm just assuming that you can do mentoring programs and then you make those contacts much easier than probably finding it yourself. But that's just a little plug.
And I think take the tips that we said. Like there's other things I could tell you now. It's like you need to be bold and persistent and unusual. Like you can't just think that you can apply, like go online, search runner and apply for a job. That's not going to work here. It's got to be that you like ask your friends and extended family if anyone knows anyone that works in like advertising or films or whatever, and see if there is someone that's somewhere that's got a really random link, or walk onto a set, or scroll the internet for people's emails addresses and send out. I used to send out, I don't know what about you, but I used to send out like 100 emails in a day that were all the same, just asking for a job. And then I'd log all of that on a spreadsheet. And in 3 months' time, I'd send the same email, checking in, telling them what I'd done since I last emailed them. And one time that worked. And you just need one person, because once you're in a production office or on a set, you will make a couple friends. They'll get you on your next job or help you meet someone. And that's it. It's just the one person. So just be bold and persistent and unusual and think laterally and like fight your little way through, and it takes one thing.
Be personal, nice person.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Thank you so much. Time is going so fast. We're having so much fun. I can't keep so another question here. What are some typical challenges that you face in the TV and film industry?
We just, all of our internalized stress just
I'm just trying to think of like, again, so like my experiences or like particular kind of roles, like, because your challenges depend on each particular show and each particular role, you know, it's so specific. I think, you know, a real challenge of it, I would say, is you're going to be working really long hours. So you're talking like a 10-hour day, a 12-hour day. There's always a lunch break scheduled in, but I can say now in production, I very rarely took it because I would have my sandwich at my desk and I'd be typing away. So, you know, it's being able to sustain that sort of career, but also like enjoying it, having fun, being a nice, kind person. You know, I think that for me was perhaps the challenge, because it is a very demanding job. And yeah, you've got to make sure that you're also enjoying it at the same time. That was my key challenge. I
have two. And I'll explain the solutions as well, because that maybe is useful. So that one, absolutely. And that's, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I maybe chose to step in a different direction with my career, because like the hours for me, just like the work-life balance was hard for me. It's not hard for everybody. One of the things was about like where you'll be working and all the different types of things you need to have on you to have a good time. So my hot tip is like, if you do a job like a location marshal, a runner, you're on set or maybe on location or in the office, like you might be all over the place depending on your role, is like have all of your gear. So you've got waterproof boots, you've got waterproof trousers, waterproof jacket, you've got umbrella, sun cream, hat, sunglasses, you've got thermals, hand warmers, all of this stuff on your person or in your bag, or you've got a waterproof backpack so it can be chucked on the side of set and you can get on. You've got a bum bag where you've got tissues and mints and like paracetamol and stuff like that. You need to be a get up and go kind of, I've got everything I need to keep moving, especially as a runner, and solving problems, because like the amount of times I gave that chewing gum or that tissue to someone on set because I'm actually helping them out. Have a pen, have a notepad, have a Sharpie, have some tape. That made me look great. And it also helped me have a good time that I could put my warm jacket on because I remembered to bring it. So that's one. The other thing is the freelance thing. I very much worked in a salaried job before I moved into film. Freelance is completely different. You still get pay slips, but you need to manage your own money and you need to check they've paid you fairly and know your tax. And I even had an accountant when I was quite young, like mid-20s. I had an accountant because some of them are quite affordable and they're specialists in media and film. And when you start earning, it actually helps you not pay massive amounts of tax. So I know it sounds really dull for some of you right now, depending on your age, but actually when you hit that freelance world, have a conversation with a grown-up about what it means to be a freelancer and get it right from the start, because otherwise you could end up not earning as much as you should, I'll say.
Awesome, thank you so much. We've got 2 more before we round up. So we've got another one here. They're asking, can you only get qualifications from LSA if you attend, or do you support other schools and colleges or run shorter programs that people can get involved with?
We don't do anything. We can get qualifications other than like studying here, but we do like Saturday clubs. Well, we haven't yet. It should be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But we do Saturday clubs. We're trying to run like enrichment programs. We do like one-term like workshops or summer activities and stuff. But we don't do things other than the actual curriculum that they teach, where you would get a qualification. But you could get some fun and experience and learn a bit more about, or maybe make a final decision if you want to study here or even go into the industries. So
we did Summerversity, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did Summerversity just over summer, which was great. It was a week-long program where a bunch of students came who were like between the ages of 13 and 16, and they just figure out if this is what they want to do, basically, and it was a great time.
I think as well, LSA likes to respond to need. So if you use the educators network, if there's something that you feel like we could offer that we don't, I'm not saying we definitely could, but at least hearing that would be great. So send it over.
Mm-hmm. And if there's any teachers that want us to come in, we will.
Amazing, thank you so much. And I guess one last question to round everything up. Do you have any last words or pieces of advice for our young people listening today who have maybe found out more about this industry or not really sure what they want to do? What last words would you like to leave us with today?
From me, I would just say, like, don't be completely set on what you think you want to do. So for me, I wanted to be a floor manager. I was like, that's definitely what I want to do. That's going to be my job. And actually, this kind of throws back to what Lucy was saying earlier about personality. Actually, for me, being a floor manager was not my role. Actually, when I got into industry, I tried lots of different things, lots of different departments. I was really open-minded. I met lots of people, did lots of networking. I was like, actually, no, I really like the idea of working in production. I'm really organized. I'm quite happy to kind of sit there on my laptop and get the call sheet done. I enjoy that kind of work. So I think be really open-minded, talk to people, shadow people, and work out what it is you want to do. Don't just be set on one particular thing. That would be my piece of advice.
Do you have advice?
Not really advice, but if you are thinking about the industries and you are thinking if you want to see more about LSA, we do have an open event on the 10th of December here. So if you do want to come speak to teachers in person and see the space or even see equipment, just to have a thought of what you want to go into. I'm not saying that you have to come here and you have to come here. You can just see, like, if this is something that you're of interest, it's another step to just securing maybe the next 2 years or 3.
I'm going to go from a development perspective because I wish I'd been told this, or I wish I had more opportunity to tell young people this, which is like, if there's something you want to do, you should do it. And I mean that not in a horrible, vague way, but like we have students who come here as like, I want to be a screenwriter, I want to be a director, I want to be a filmmaker. These are all very development-y kind of jobs, or I want to be a development executive, which is giving feedback on scripts, or a script reader. There's nothing stopping you from doing that now. And some of the biggest successes I've seen in my wider extended network is just because people were prolific with their action, kept doing it, kept making mistakes and failing and being cool with that until they got it right. Like I've got a friend who's been developing scripts since I've known him in his like early 20s, and he's now in his like mid 30s, and he's just got his first film into the BFI Film Festival. And that's a massive kind of like milestone. But he's just been relentless, and his success has come from being relentless. So just do the thing you want to do badly over and over again until you get good at it, and start doing it right now. Write your first script tomorrow, 3 pages, absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much, Lucy, Poppy and Tiana, for your time today. It's been amazing, and I'm definitely sure you've inspired a lot of people watching. So thank you again, and hopefully speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. So we have a couple minutes left for some feedback. I'm going to put a QR code on the screen. I'm going to disappear for a couple minutes, but I'll be back just to end everything. But please do put some time in for some feedback right now. Let us know how you found today, how we can improve, and the QR code is right here, and I'll be back shortly. That is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's been a really great session and we hope you enjoyed it. See you soon for another Industry Spotlight. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.